So you run a very famous brand. People will know it. And my first question is, you chose to use your name as the brand, and I think, oh, on one side that's really cool, but then how do you manage to separate yourself from this thing that's going to? I mean, you have people literally using your name when you're not around. How do you deal with it?
So I'll say this. When I first started the brand, I had worked for a designer previously for about 3 years. And I just kept thinking to myself, if I'm going to work this hard, I want it to be for me. And at the time, it just felt like a mouthful to say blah by Rebecca Minkoff.
Yeah.
And I knew that I had a personality, that I wasn't shy, that I was happy to be forward facing. And I think it's easy to call something else if you do want to be behind the scenes and never be the face. But I just had this feeling that as designers emerged into be, creators, if you will, media companies, that having the name and the person be one would be a lot easier. And that worked for a long time. And then when your company grows and you start scaling and you go, I started with one bag that was very easy to control, cut to thousands of SKUs every month. And you start going, well, like, do I like that? And it has my name on it, or we've had, whether it be, CMOs or creatives come in the company and create things that I absolutely hated. And so I had to really disassociate sometimes myself with, this is the product that I'm not passionate about and I don't like, and it has my name on it. And here, is it good for business? Is it keeping the lights on? Or do I hate it so much that I think it's off brand and dangerous? And that's when I put my foot down. So, a friend of mine who's a well-known influencer said, your commoditized product still needs to reflect your aesthetic. It could be the most diluted version of yourself, right? And I'm okay with that because, I have 3 kids. I have to pay for school and life. So if I have a commoditized product, as long as it matches back up to the motherboard, we're good. And so that's sort of how in the last, I'd say, 5 years, I've really said, okay, good. Do I have to be in love with everything we create? No, but it has to match my aesthetic. It has to match back to who my customer thinks the brand is. And then from there, I can like all the things that, get canceled and never make it.
So out of the thousands of SKUs you have, what are some of the things that have your name on that you just don't like, but they're selling like crazy?
Well, I want to
Or
say
is
that
that too dangerous to say?
I think it's too dangerous to say.
Okay.
And I do want to say it's not that I don't like it. It's that, I'm designing for lots of different women from lots of different places. So if I go into the granular, microcosm of New York or LA, right? They're going to have a much forward fashion sense than a lot of other places. So some of the things that I might not wear, but doesn't mean I don't love them. How about that?
Okay, that's fair. And by the way, I take this personally because I'm a glass blower and I make a bunch of glass and I sign my name to some pieces and the other pieces I don't sign. And one day I was in a gallery and I saw a piece that I had literally thrown away. I'd thrown it in a dumpster outside the studio that I was working. And somebody had dumpster dove, pulled it out, and put it for sale. And they put my name on, and I couldn't believe. But it's like, and now this is representing me, and it was insane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got your name on something, and you don't really have control. But it sounds like you've learned to live with that. But
Well, I do have control on that. I do see everything. I do sign off on everything. And I will say it has a lot to do with having good partners within my company. There was a run where we had someone who would make anything that anyone asked for. So a store came in and said, we want a laptop case that says nerd alert on it. And I was
yeah,
like, who wants a laptop case that says that? And she's like, do you want the money? Do you want the order or not? And at that time, I didn't feel confident enough to, really put my foot down. But we have an incredible chief commercial officer now, and she and I are on the same page. So now nothing really goes out that I'm like, oh, that's atrocious.
do your top executives mostly agree with you or mostly disagree with you?
Now they mostly agree with me.
Is that good?
I think it's good, not because they're yesing me. There's definitely moments that, my co-founder and CEO is my brother. So we can disagree till the cows come home and it doesn't matter
Right.
because we've
He's good at disagreeing with you. He's got a lifetime practice.
exactly. And then our chief commercial officer, I want her to disagree with me because she's been in this business for a long time and I respect her immensely. So if she disagrees with me, I know I might be going off. But we've had people in the past that disagreed and I thought they were wrong and, you butt heads, but I never want a yes man. I don't think that's healthy for anybody.
Okay. So, but let's talk about you as a designer, because one of the problems that creative people run into when they start a business is that you get to some level of success by being a creative, by being a producer. You're able to do this thing. In your case, you're a designer. And then you start a business, and now you're an accountant. Now you're HR. You're doing tax filings. You're, God forbid, general counsel. So you take on all these other roles when you become the CEO, and then you no longer have time to design. What happened to you as you went from somebody who was able to just focus on product to somebody who now has to essentially run the company?
So two things. My brother as CEO, runs the logistics, the finance, the operations, all the unsexy stuff. I oversee design, marketing, PR, social content. So in the beginning, I just designed, right? For the first 7 years, I was in my ivory tower. That's all I did, that and being out there with my customer. And at one point he looked at me and he's like, you need to evolve. You can't just hide in the back or wave in the front. Like there's a whole language of business that you need to understand. And I was really pissed. I was like very resentful of him telling me what to do. But I started, reading TechCrunch and Mashable and Inc. And at the airport, instead of buying Vogue, I'd start buying Entrepreneur, what have you.
Oh, God.
And I started becoming really intrigued business-wise. So I really forced myself to have a strong, solid business education. And that just makes me a better designer. So, with let's say pre-pandemic, with the cycle of design, there's intense periods of design where that's all you're doing for 2 weeks. And then there's these breaks while your factory is digesting the samples, so that allows me to straddle other areas of the business. I'd be lying if I said to you, I design all day, every day anymore. I have a team, and now is probably the first time where I'm seeing samples making very quick comments and then they move on. So my days have definitely shifted as the business has gotten bigger, because you can't do all these things, right? It's impossible for one human. And so it's really having a good team.
Have you had a situation where one of your team members designed something that was better than something you thought you could have done?
Oh, all the time.
Do you
That's my
remember
favorite thing. When I pull it out of the box and I'm like, oh my God, I love it so much. I want it now. Like, there's something to be said as a designer. If you do it all by yourself and you're so close to it and you hear what the buyers say and the criticism and what went wrong in the sampling process, by the time you get it, you're like, ugh, I'm so sick of you. Right?
Yeah. But it's humbling though, isn't it? Like right now I'm in the studio designing I'm designing a new range of glassware. And I haven't been in the studio really seriously for the last 10 years. So my hands aren't quite able to do all the moves that I used to be able to do. So I've got this guy who's a hired guy. He's phenomenal. And he can do stuff that I can't do.
Right.
And it's very humbling. You get in there like, oh man, I wish I could do that, but I can't.
Yeah.
But still it's your name that's on the piece.
Yeah, but I think everyone knows that that's what they're signing up for. I think the customer has to know. There's no way she can do 2,000 SKUs a year and, stay sane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same for most luxury brands,
So when you're selling apparel, the great thing that nobody knows is apparel going to continue the way it has? Or are we going to see models like, what Vince is doing and Rent the Runway? I mean, I never thought of renting this sweater, but my wife rents sweaters. She's got this subscription to Vince. An outfit comes in a box. She wears it is that the future? Are we going to see?
I think that it was strongly pre-COVID heading in that direction with a couple of exceptions. You have your investment pieces that are those items like our leather jackets or, some items that you just don't want to rent that you need as far as staples. And then you're going to pepper your wardrobe with all the fun stuff that goes in and out of trend. But I do think, sadly, with the pandemic, people have been like, oh, did they dry clean it? Is it clean enough? And I'm sure that it is, but I think that that's sort of halted that industry a little bit. And then
wait a second.
Yeah.
You think the pandemic has hurt clothing subscription? I don't even know what to call it. Is it clothing rental? Is it
Clothing rental, yeah, or subscription. I mean, if you just look at, and Jen Hyman's a friend of mine, but I think if you look at originally, like she couldn't open her centers, right?
Yeah.
So she was closed. So what did the customer do, or who took that mind share while she was closed? I don't know if she's reopened, but I think that, people are pausing a little bit on, oh, someone wore this already. So I think it's definitely going to be there, but I also think the recasualization, I'm wearing a very fancy sweatshirt right now. But I think that, people will still get dressed and go out, but like I put on a pair of jeans the other day and I was like, oh, these are coming right off. Like, I think people will want elasticized waist and just ease, even if they pay, a pretty penny for it.
Have you seen the fashion mix shift to a more sort of couch-centric world?
So it's two things. It's couch-centric. It's Zoom shoulders.
Oh, so yeah.
Zoom accessories. And then even in the bag space, we're seeing a huge shift on our site to nylon or totes, backpacks, just because where are you going? To the grocery store, to the farmer's market? You don't need that smaller bag these days.
What about masks? Are they going to become part of fashion?
Yes, sadly. I mean, I see, I keep saying masks are going to be the new sneaker. So you'll wear your fancy luxury item on your face. I mean, I'm hoping that we can just all get into face shields and then we can actually see each other's faces, because I think masks, while they're protecting you from getting corona, they're creating something that's not good, I think, for human connection.
Yeah, it's really true. I would, so just a personal question, would you rather have a Zoom meeting like this where neither one of us are wearing masks, or a face-to-face meeting where we're both concealed?
I would rather have a meeting with you in person where we're 6 feet apart and not wearing masks.
Okay. All right. Outdoors it is.
We could go on a hike. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, no, it's interesting. And I wonder, as a designer, have you tried to do anything culturally with, I mean, there's some cultures where face covering is part of at least female culture. Is there anything from the Middle East or, any of the, sort of traditional face covering fashions, if you will, that has inspired anything you've done?
No, the masks that we have coming out in the next week are just really great fun prints. So we have 9 different prints that we're launching, and then we donate a mask to a healthcare worker with every purchase. So they're just meant to be fun, express who you are through fashion. Okay.
So you just said, I'm going to go back 2 questions now, because you just said something super interesting, and I want to get to that, which is that in almost every other area, certainly at Square we've seen this, but frankly in every other area that I work in, COVID-19 has accelerated trends that we already saw coming. So in other words, well, we're going to do remote meetings. Well, now everybody's doing remote meetings. Or, oh, you're going to do shopping online. Well, now everybody's shopping online. So we've seen these trends that were coming have this tremendous acceleration because of, the pandemic. But you just said something that I've never heard, which is that rental, which was a trend that we saw coming and was starting to pick up some traction, has reversed because of COVID-19. That's super interesting.
I don't want to be the data source that you attribute to this.
You're the only one I've got. So, and I'm taking this straight to the Fed. Like the second you get off, I'm calling the president. But
So it's just what I read. I read it, and I sorry that I can't quote where I read it because it was kind of in the beginning when logistics and operation centers were being shut down. But I did read that things were slowing down in the rental space.
okay. Do you have an idea why? Is it because people aren't going out? They don't have more? Because I would imagine rental is partially event driven.
Oh
And
yeah,
events are all being canceled. Like I'm not going to I'm certainly not going to rent anything formal because I'm not going to wear anything formal.
yeah.
So that kind of gets rid of Rent the Runway. But then the question is, if is this just one of those trends that, for crazy reasons, didn't catch the COVID wave?
I think it's a couple of things. I think that, like you said, people aren't going out. Our Instagram generation of I need a new outfit every day, that's not happening as much as we're staying inside. I think the type of fashion, again, with the casualization, there's no need to rent sweatpants, right? Or a fancy tracksuit. I also think it's, I'm seeing a trend with sustainability and people consuming less, right? As you are staring at your closet all day and you're like, I have so much stuff right here that I'm looking at for more hours per day than I ever have. I think there's also been a sentiment of buy less, waste less. And so that's going to inform how often you're, restocking your closet, if you will.
So when you try to sell a piece, are you going for an impulse purchase or for, one of those hero pieces that everybody has to have, and they're going to have one of your pieces and spend more for it? Because I think about, like, I'm a guy with a, limited closet space. I've got a small house, and I got about practically about 5 feet to store everything I need to wear in my.
Yeah, but men are simple. My husband has the same amount of space, and I'm like, my new closet's going to be 3 times bigger. I just, you guys don't need a lot of stuff. I don't know what to say.
Well, okay, but granted, but I'll tell you this: my wife has almost the same amount of space. All right, which is one of the reasons she loves rental. But she's probably an outlier. But when I'm going to buy something, it's either so obvious and so easy that it's an impulse purchase and I don't care, or I have to make room for it, in which case something's got to go. So when you're targeting somebody to buy a new piece, are you aiming for the I love it, I got to have it impulse, or is it something that they think about, and finally, pick one of your pieces?
I think it's the latter. I think with my customer, what I hear over and over again is we're a milestone moment brand. She comes to us as her first level up from fast fashion. She's like, finally, I got my raise, or my first job, my first interview, my first divorce, my first affair, right? So
Do you have a different line for divorce versus affair?
Yes, very different attributes.
One has snaps, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So she's really investing in our items, and she's buying them 4 times a year. She obviously likes to buy on sale if she can, but I think that every woman I met has worked really hard for her Rebecca Minkoff, and so I don't think she's just doing it as something that she might buy at, an H&M or whatever, Zara, that she knows is going to fall apart and throw away within 3 months.
So in the glass world, I have noticed that $300 to $500 is about the top range you can get for a piece of beauty. In other words, if I make a gorgeous object and I stick it in a gallery or someplace to sell, and I don't sign it, in other words, it's this anonymous, beautiful thing. Basically, $500 is about the most I can ever get for it. Okay. Anything over $500, I need to put a signature on it, and then that signature then sort of, it's like a homework assignment for the buyer to come back and say, oh, is Jim McKelvey somebody who's serious about art, and what's his reputation, and is he at MoMA, and they start vetting you as an artist. I would imagine it's the same in the fashion world, and that is at some point the brand can't sell just on quality of material, quality of design, that it has to have something else. The brand has to enter. First of all, do you agree with that? Does the same thing happen in fashion that it does in art?
Well, I mean, I have to put my name on everything, or otherwise people will just go and pay $20 for it at Zara, right? Because they've already copied me.
And Zara copies you how fast now?
Well, what we did back in 2016 is we shifted when we show our product. So while everyone is showing, like this September, everyone is showing spring of 2021 goods. And that gives Zara, hope I don't get sued here, that gives, fast fashion.
Nobody watches my stuff, so you're fine. But
Great, okay.
I won't sue you, I promise.
Yeah, right.
Nobody listening.
That gives, places that can make things in a matter of weeks, the ability to hit the floor far before the designer's goods hit. So we actually went to a see by wear model. And so we're showing you fall product because we felt like with social media showing everything to everyone everywhere, and then it's in a magazine, and then it's on someone, that by the time it ships, you're sick of it. You've seen it, you put it on your Pinterest board or whatever. And so we actually said, okay, show this to consumer, surprise and delight her, and then she can buy it. Like, what a concept. So now we get copied far less because everyone's seeing everything while it's available. And my theory, and it's proven true, is she's now buying it from us because she doesn't want to wait the 6 weeks for it to get copied. So
Okay.
we sort of reverse that model. And I also think it has a lot to do with brand. She knows what she's buying into. She's buying into a present founder, someone that was never too good to connect with her. We've been known as people that were first to talk to our customer, first to interact with her, especially using social media. And so I think she feels a connection. Like, I've grown up and she's grown up with me. Like, I am the same sex and age as my customer. And so there's a connection there that I think you can't make up.
So it's interesting, because psychologically people, so I do this big thing in the book. Have you read chapter 5 on copying? Did you ever read copies of copies?
Yes. And can I tell you that when I read that, because my husband and I have a new business we want to launch and it involves copying, and it fully justified like any doubts I had about launching.
Good. But it's this funny thing. And for people who haven't read it, like, copying is a great way of doing a lot of stuff. As a matter of fact, most stuff should be copied.
Yeah.
But then if you're in the business of originality, if you're trying to create something new, the copycats are sort of your enemies.
Correct.
And I've seen all sorts of crazy behavior. So Apple, famously, when they would come out with a new iPhone, they would go and they would buy up all the parts in China from the various companies, so that Samsung and the other manufacturers who were going to copy whatever Apple did physically couldn't get the parts.
Wow.
It doesn't work so well in Samsung's case because they're one of the ones who make all the parts. But Apple would try to lock up the memory chips. They would try to lock up, basically anything they could do to just thwart the copycats for another month. But before we get into what you and your husband are thinking about, which would also be super interesting, have you ever tried in your design to thwart the copycats? In other words, have you ever tried to, make some stitch or do some piecework that just can't easily be knocked off by Zara's machines because you've got different machines, or like, have you gotten down to that level, or do you just say, look, I'm going to put this design out and, deal with the 2 months that I have to sell it?
So we have a couple of signifiers. I've been sort of very stubborn since the beginning of, I never wanted a woman to get stopped because of the big oversized plaque that she essentially paid for on her bag saying, oh, I'm rich because I bought my double C's or my whatever. I really wanted a woman to stand out for her style by the design of the bag. And, my logo's always been very small, tiny, mostly on the back. Only recently am I allowing my team to put my name on the front, and it weirds me out. But I feel like we'd had to develop some signature iconography that you knew was us. So the tassels on the bag, there's a shape that sort of has a seagull-like or a flap-like shape that we use as a stitch. Our dog hooks, which I used to actually buy them all from Home Depot, have been like a signature staple for the last 15 years. So I think A woman knows that that's our bag because of that. And yes, people copy, one of my best-selling backpacks is knocked off all the time. But I think it goes down to, when you bought the knockoff at Forever 21, it fell apart, right? Or the hardware was like plastic coated crap and it broke. And so I think, the customer has one experience with that and she's like, oh, not this again.
Okay. So tell me about what like, if you can.
I can't. I can't give you my idea. Then what if someone takes it?
What if somebody else copies it? Okay, never mind. No, I get it.
We haven't even reserved the domain name on GoDaddy yet. So that's,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have my deepest sympathy in starting another company. But let's talk about the first time you took that leap. So when you were, and you can tell I'm not a professional interviewer because I just jump all over the place, but it was super interesting. So you were working as a designer. You're obviously well paid. You loved what you did. You weren't well paid.
Are you kidding me? How much money do you think designers make?
Oh God.
Take away people that work at Valentino and Chanel and.
Oh my God. I've never even thought of it that way.
I think at my peak, I made maybe $300 or $400 a week at my peak there.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, at Square. So when we do software design, granted it's a different world. I've had designers get $1 million salaries.
Oh no, not in this business.
And even as a lowly glass blower, like as a guy who was just, making his living, literally busting out, stuff that nobody needed. I was well into six figures.
That's amazing.
But it turns out that, you can sell pretty objects. At least you could in an up economy. I don't know about right now. Okay, so you were not well paid.
No.
But that's even worse because that means you probably don't have a lot of savings. And you got to take the leap and start something on your own. And that requires capital. That's terrifying. How did you get the gumption to go do that? What was the thing that allowed you to leave the herd?
So it's an unfortunate circumstance that sort of created my entire career. But I launched with let me go back. I had been in the Caribbean at this artist convention let's just say it was August of 2001.
Now, I've been to artist conventions. How much drug use was there?
There was zero. It was a sober one. Can you believe
that? Okay, all right. So thank you. All right.
So within all the tourist stalls that we were let out to see every day, I loved the cut up shirts that said Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, but I just didn't want to wear something that said that. I really wanted something for New York. So I designed, I took an I Love New York shirt when I got home that you buy on Canal Street. And I cut it up and my sister-in-law wore it. And then she had dinner with a famous actress who wanted it. And I sent her this shirt on September 9th.
Before September 11th.
Yes. So my first fashion show was on the 10th. It was like part of a group show. And then the next morning, everything changed. And I thought to myself, I just put the last of my, $800 savings into this group fashion show. And now I have nothing. I was still working for the designer at that point. And then Jenna wore the shirt on Jay Leno on September 13th. And Jay was like, I like your shirt, Jenna. And then she said my name. And again, everyone has to close their eyes and go geriatric with us, pre-social media. Magazines just kept writing about this shirt. And I had one fledgling e-commerce site and she just put it up. I had faxed her the line sheets and she called me and she just would say, I need 20, I need 40, I need 60. And that's all I did for 9 months was make that shirt. So when my current boss at the time saw I was getting very busy and very distracted, she's like, you're fired, go do it. Good luck, I'm here if you need me. And that was terrifying, but I just made t-shirts. And then I'm not saying I got rich on it at all. I made no money, but I was able to, I guess, pay rent and eat ramen, and that was worth it.
Yeah, and it also gets you in the business. I mean, what people don't understand is that, a business is this thing, you know, that at some point has to function, even if it's only one shirt, even if there's only one product moving through. Like the fact that, from the customer wanting it to the customer getting it and you getting paid, that all has to function. And once you've got that pipeline going, then the next thing that goes through that pipeline can be, profitable.
Exactly.
And it
Well,
sounds like,
it took us many years to get profitable, like as in last year. So
oh my
just
God.
putting it out there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's very different from the tech industry.
Yeah, we bathe in money in tech.
I
Like
know.
literally,
Jealous.
it's obscene. It's obscene. You should see some of our offices. I won't sort of throw square under the bus. Like go to any tech company's headquarter office,
Yeah.
and it's nuts.
I know.
So in the fashion world, I assume you're not just drowning in money here,
No,
because
I
it
mean,
seems all glamorous. And
listen, the luxury companies are drowning in money because in some cases I'm using the same quality of leather as some of these huge companies, but they charge 10 times the price.
yeah,
So and because they're buying a zillion more skins, they get, 10 cents off or whatever. So I think the category that we're in, which is contemporary or affordable luxury, it is harder to make money. It really is about scale. And so if you have a zillion stores or, a lot of these bigger companies, most of their money is made in outlets, right? So we don't do that. And so, I'm really proud of the size we're at, but definitely we're not bathing in cash at like you guys are.
yeah, it's always embarrassing because when I sort of mention any of the numbers from the tech world, it's literally 10x or 100x what other industries get to play with.
Yes.
So that's an awkward topic. So let's just get off that and talk about launching a business in the middle of a downturn. Okay, so interestingly, when I was researching companies for the innovation stack, and I found these companies that had built innovation stacks, I talk about all the phenomenon in the book, but one of the things that I didn't really highlight that I probably should have was that in every case that I studied, the company that had become this world leader also had a massive crisis. So, Bank of America, which used to be called Bank of Italy, which was at one point the biggest bank in the world, started in San Francisco the year before the Great San Francisco earthquake.
That's the chapter I'm on.
Oh, do you have the comic book yet?
No, not yet.
I will send you, I will make sure you get FedExed a comic book because chapter 9 is in comic format. And I'll make sure I'll get you that
Okay.
at the end of this. But it was this eerie parallel, and you wonder how important disaster or chaos is to the founding of a great business.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to answer that?
Please.
So in 2008, our prices, just for reference, my few styles that I had was $495 and $595. And that was considered very affordable. It was considered like the new opening price point within the handbag space. And we were having a celebratory dinner with Saks Fifth Avenue, cheersing to our business. And they said, the recession's coming. If you don't lower your prices, and there's a 1 or 2 in front of those, $195, $295, we just can't buy you and continue to do business in the volume that we've been doing. So don't take away the quality, don't change anything, but lower your prices. And that's when I got my first gray hair, because it took us a month to figure out how do we do this. And we said, let's adopt the Wrigley's model. Like, let's just make a lot and we'll, have zero margin, but we'll stay in business. And once we reach scale, we can negotiate and get lower pricing on manufacturing. So we did it. And I thought that it would hit immediately and the customer would realize. And it took 3 months of us going, can I swear on this interview?
Please.
Holy fuck. What did we just do? No one cares. And we just took away any profitability. right? And all of a sudden, 3 months went by and the numbers started going like crazy. And we grew 548% in 2009 because of that. And I watched every single one of my competition at the time get obliterated. Like they're no longer around or in business
Oh my
because
God.
they didn't do it.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
By the way, I find that to be sort of the opposite in the art world. If you try to discount art,
Yeah.
it has a chilling effect. But I guess if you discount fashion, but can maintain the brand, and by the way, I still don't understand brand. I still don't understand brand. I mean, to some extent, I kind of live in that world because I know I have to sign certain pieces in order to sell them.
Yep.
But I was never really that big an artist as just my name, so I never really had to sort of worry about that. But brand is everything, and establishing a brand, is it more about what you do or don't do? Like,
I think it's both. That's really hard to say because she's not just buying into a product, she's buying into the romance of a lifestyle or the promise that she thinks that product has. You know, I keep talking about milestones. So when I launched, my first bag was called the morning after bag. You know, she was like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this bag and I'm going to meet that guy tonight, right? Or meet that girl. And so I think it's buying into what the brand stands for, how they act. So when you say what they don't do, you know, there's a lot of things you don't do as a brand or things you do that other people are too scared to do. I mean, dumb stuff like when I was leaning hard into women's rights, there were people that were scared to talk about, you know, should we be equal? I don't know. And it sounds stupid now, but, you know, it's approaching the topics that you authentically stand for. And I think that then she trusts you. And then she's like, oh, I like her. And I think it also has to do with not just that I like her, but I could be that, right? My customer knows that the jump to be me is not that big because I'm pretty real. And I think that she appreciates that.
and how much of that is Rebecca Minkoff, the person, v. the brand? In other words, if you go and go to a rally or something, that has impact on your. Oh, by the way, are you allowed to? Are you allowed to be political? Are you allowed? I mean, do you have guidelines now, corporate rails that says, "Oh, Rebecca, we'd rather you not, go to the Trump rally or whatever."
There's probably a guy that says, Rebecca, if you go to the Trump rally, we'll be filing for bankruptcy. But no, we don't have guidelines. I mean, our business is pretty flat in terms of layers. It's really my brother and I calling the shots. So, you know, if I'm going to post something that I think could get me in trouble or inflammatory, I definitely run it by him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to have a pretty high social media personal presence, right?
Yeah. I mean, we as a brand have tested what that platform is used. Is it me? Is it just brand? And anytime we took me out of it and it was just models and product shots and no other substance, just buy, the response has not been good. So, you know, we've spent the last 2 years sort of being like, hey, I'm here, I'm around. This is my, here's this great shirt you should buy, but also here's me on the beach with my kids, and really making it sort of a hybrid.
Okay. So do you think people who wear your brand secretly want to be you?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I think they go, oh, it's not they want to be me, but they might want to do those things. Like I want that, I want to wear that shirt with those jeans, or I like that recipe. Maybe I should buy that pan, or, oh, that's a good drink. I should try it. So it's influencing in a way, but I don't think anyone's like, ooh, I want to be her.
Okay. So now I'm going to get super personal because I'm going to use you as a consultant, this is my one chance to talk to somebody who's actually developed a brand. So I'm going to tell you my problem right now, which is that when my glass studio, which is in St. Louis, and it's mostly a teaching studio.
Okay.
But we just opened up another private studio that's capable of producing this super high quality crystal, which we've never had the ability to do before. So we got this super awesome physical glass. And I was like, I saw this material, and I've been working with glass for 30 years. And I saw this, and it's just, It's like the old lead crystal from Czechoslovakia or Europe, but it doesn't kill you. So,
That's good.
so this is good. And it's my first time in 30 years that I've had this awesome physical substance, and I wanted to design something around it. And so I thought that I would do a line of drinking glasses, because drinking glasses are something, they're very personal, and I like, I just sort of like them. So I'm with that. But what I realized is that, oh, wait a second, I've now got to create a brand. Like, people are not going to pay, because it's going to be very, very expensive for these things. They're probably going to be, retail price point of $200 for one glass,
Right.
And in order to sell at that price, because you're going to need 6 of them to, have any sort of order, that's an insane price to get if you don't have a brand. So I now need to, for the first time, try to create a brand, not my name, just this brand, because other people are going to be making these things and I'm not going to make them. I'll design them. But if I came to you for advice on what to do to start a brand, assume I've got a decent product, but then what's the next step today with the world shut down and social media, and like, what's the next step? And by the way, I'm actually going to do it. So, and I do have a pen here, so go.
I love it. Okay, no pressure from the man who started Square, but here I go.
Go for it, please.
And
I'm going to be looking down here writing, so go.
I think that having an extraordinarily strong, unmistakable color palette, feel, filter with regards to social media, Pinterest, what have you. I always love discovering a brand when I'm pulled into their world and it's not like someone's bad scrapbook album. So the brands that I am most excited about have unified certain things that you're just like, oh, that looks really good. That's pleasing on my eye. And then everything they give to you is a surprise and it's exciting, but there's a unification of, the brand's promise when you arrive to that page, whether it's their website or their Instagram. And so, like, what is that for this glassware?
So when you talk about color, do you mean color of my product? Because right now these things are all going to be clear, I think.
The brand color.
Brand color.
Yeah, the brand's color. Like,
I didn't even think about that. Okay.
What is the person going to feel like when they drink from that glass, right? Like, they're going to be holding this glass. It's like women will tend to buy a more expensive lipstick because it's the one cosmetic item that they put on in public, right? They'll put on lipstick at a table while they're waiting for their date to get back. So that lipstick case better look fancy because it makes them feel like, right? Everything else you go to the bathroom to do, so it doesn't matter that it was $5 at the drugstore. So I think, what is this person when they're holding their glass? Who is that person? How do you want them to feel? What did they look like? So that when people go to this site, they're like, oh, I want to look like her or him. I want to have that feeling like, is the drink more crisp on your lips because of that? Like, I hate eating with gold plated silverware because it makes my mouth taste funny. So like, maybe there's a taste to the beverage that's better because of this.
How often do you get, just as a side, how often do you get to eat with gold silverware? Because I've never had that opportunity.
No, not gold.
It's never been an option. That's just not one of my problems. What are you doing differently? And what should I learn from this?
It's not solid gold. It's the gold plated stuff that they sometimes have in fancy restaurants. I don't know.
Oh, you mean the little flecks of gold that they expect you to ingest?
No, like, I've been at dinner parties in the city where the utensils that you're dining with are the gold-plated silverware. It tastes
okay.
It makes your food taste different. It's not expensive. It just is gold instead of silver.
Wow.
I don't know what else to say. Right. But I'll also tell you that solid silverware tastes different. It ruins the taste of things for me. Like, my mom has her grandmother's stuff from Europe, right? I used it for a tea party one time for my kids, and I was like, this is gross. Like, let's get this out of here. So, certain elements might change the taste of what people are drinking, and that could be good and bad. So, like, what is that imagery that's going to convey what you're trying to achieve?
Final question, and you've been super generous with your time, but this hour's just flown by, so this is super fun for me.
We have 9 more minutes, Jim, just to let you know.
But I'm going to ask a really tough question.
Okay.
Well, how should I start with one product? Like, and by the way, when I get back, I'm not in my studio right now, but when I get back to my studio, I will send you one of the prototypes of this drinking glass. But can you launch a brand with one product?
Yes.
Like with just a set of tumblers or a set of rocks glasses? Because you started with one shirt.
I started with one shirt, and when that was done, it was one bag. And it was one bag for an entire year. I did her in a ton of different colors. I would show up to all the stores with like a little shitty piece of paper like this with crappy swatches put on them and be like, which combo do you like? So I think that now more than ever, in a sea of everyone launching brands, because the bar is so low.
Oh yeah.
When you launch with a full collection, it's just confusing. You know, I think you need to say this is the hero piece. Maybe she's available in different shades, but like you need to hammer into these people like this is what you're getting, and then I'm going to evolve. You know, I'm going to give you the whatever, the one with the stem or the shot glass, right? But I think you need to get it out there that she closes her eyes and she's like, oh, this brand makes the best blah. Okay.
So a lot of it comes back to product, because right now I don't have any product that I love. Like the piece that I'm going to send you is a prototype, and I've made 50 of them. I probably made 200 of them, and I haven't yet gotten one that just feels right.
Yeah.
And it's driving me nuts as the designer.
But I think that you're making a mistake by not putting your name on it.
You think it should be Jim McKelvey branded?
Yeah, because what if I'm just buying a tumbler and I don't know it's you and I don't know your history, I'll be like, I'll go to West Elm and I'll just buy this glass. It's cheaper, right? So I think that you've seen certain artists sort of span the gamut, whether it's what's his name? The bunny rabbits, the blow up bunny rabbits.
Oh, Coons?
Yes, like he has jewelry that's this tiny, and then he has his big ones. And I think, you know, I don't think there's something wrong or brand damaging by putting your name on it. And I think it's a chance for people to know your story. And I think that's more powerful than anything else.
I was worried because, you know, I mean, yeah, I've got some chops as a glassblower, but most people know me right now as the founder of Square or, you know, some of the other stuff, some of the other stuff that I do. And I thought it would be, my name always confuses people because they never figure out, you know, I'm not 100% a glassblower anymore,
right?
You know? So I always worried that would be a negative, especially since people will at some point realize that I physically don't make these things. Like I'm going to spend all my time designing and then hopefully train a couple of people who can make them.
But artists do that all the time.
Okay.
I mean, they have their minions.
So if I've got this one product and I go in with my samples in a bunch of bubble wrap, which is how I always used to do it. I didn't go with it. I you know, actually I still have the car that I used, the 95 Acura, but I used to throw my crap in the back of this crummy old Acura and drive around. Do I even show up at retail anymore?
Why?
I mean,
why bother?
It's not a thing. I'm not going to call on Macy's.
Definitely don't do that. But I would also say, like, you know, you can have an e-commerce site and you can do really creative pop-up shops. You know, I think, can you imagine how desperate landlords are right now if you said, I'll do a revenue only pop-up and you can come meet the artist, or, you know, if you touch and feel this in person, ship to you later. I think there's really creative opportunities. If you don't even want it to be a pop-up shop, some people are, you know, leasing out their window spaces. So like, and with technology, so cool. You know, you have the UPC code or the whatever, the code on the outside, and they just takes you to purchase.
Okay, so you're telling me don't build a time machine and go back to 1987.
Please don't do that.
One last question for all the folks who are watching, or I should say both the folks who are watching. No, seriously, I don't do social media. I have no idea who is going to see this. But I've got some folks who might be able to get it out. Talk to the creative person who's out there, who was you back when you were underpaid designer, with some ideas. They're terrified. Their savings is getting wiped out because they've been living hand to mouth for the last 4 months. But they've got a product idea or something they want to bring into the world. Should they do it now? Should we wait for a recovery? Like, when do you hit the go?
So first I would say buckle up and prepare to not make money for a lot longer than that. And, now is the time where I think new entrepreneurs can forge a path. I think older entrepreneurs are sort of rediscovering what it was like to start over. And I think what's happening right now is a bed of development where you're going to see incredible companies and innovations arise. It happens every time there's a recession. And so why not be a part of that? And why not experience the ride? You have captured attention that everyone is at home on their screens all day. So if you can get in front of them, it's a good time to launch. I don't necessarily believe in, to launch, you have to raise $1 zillion. It wasn't in the zeitgeist when we did it. We really bootstrapped. My brother mortgaged his house. We lived on credit cards. And so I think that you can get creative with how you raise money. I Fund Women is an incredible platform for female founders. There's a ton. Get creative with your funding and, make sure that if you are going to launch something, that it's something right now that people want. There's a lot of things that would be nice to have, but like, make sure you're not, designing, the ultimate suitcase right now, because we're not going anywhere. So just be smart about what it is and that the timing is right. And I say, do it.
Okay. Rebecca, thank you so much. This has been super fun for me. I hope we can get this video out there because I think a lot of people will respond to it. But wow, this has just been wonderful. And offline, I'll get your address and I'll send you one of my prototypes, and hopefully you and your husband can have a drink
with a gold spoon.
Yes. Get you a gold-plated straw or something.
Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to have spoken with you.
This is super fun. All right. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.